A possible shakeup in Baltimore's mayoral race as Thrifting considers a run. Why this morning, one expert says it could be bad news for another candidate.
They just take our trash cans, put them in the trash truck, and dispose of them. They crush them. You know, what are we supposed to do now?
A mystery over missing trash cans solved on video. How home surveillance video caught a garbage truck taking the can instead of the trash.
All right, and on the weather front, a few clouds out there this morning. It's chill in the air. Will the quiet weather hold up throughout the entire Christmas weekend? We'll have the answer coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. Looking live over Towson before the sun rises. On this December 23rd, you thought you could get rid of us on a holiday weekend? Absolutely not. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's go ahead and get to your forecast. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart with what we're working with this Saturday.
Look, it's the news business. When everyone else is home, that's when we're in action, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the thing about it. We've got pretty good looking weather here to start the Christmas holiday weekend. 40 right now in the city, 36 in Aberdeen, and 36 in Easton. So feeling like Christmas, no question about that. We anticipate no unseasonable warmth for the Christmas weekend, but relatively decent weather. You know, temperatures are going to warm up about 10 or 12 degrees today, despite some cloud cover. So I think ultimately, hovering around 50 the next afternoon or two. There is some active weather off to the west, so travelers headed out toward Columbus or Cleveland or certainly up into the Detroit area, you're going to find some active weather that way. Some rain, not so much anything in the way of true winter weather, but rain and wind could create some travel headaches of travelers to the upper Midwest. Otherwise, here locally around Maryland, mostly in the 40s most of the day, but relatively quiet. We'll talk about how the things set up for Christmas Eve into Christmas Day itself. It's coming up.
In your election 2024 coverage, crime is expected to be the focus of next year's mayoral race. Fox 45 News is hearing from frustrated residents who say something needs to change inside City Hall to help the city become safer.
Is what are you going to do tomorrow, not a year and a half from now, not January of 2025 after election outcomes, but what will you do today working with the current mayor, working with the leadership of the Baltimore Police Department to ensure that acts of violence are not occurring to residents on a daily basis now?
There could be a shakeup in the mayor's race. Former federal and state prosecutor Thrifting says he's forming an exploratory committee to weigh a mayoral bid. Fox 45's Keith Daniels looks at how this could reshape the race.
Thrifting back on the campaign trail to Baltimore City Hall's top job once again. Maybe. Vignarajah announcing Friday that he is forming a campaign exploratory committee. Dr. Richard Vatz,
exploratory committees are usually symbolic.
A political rhetoric professor at Towson University, on the would-be candidate's calculated move.
It tells that he's going to run. I mean, there are always exceptions, but I can't think of any major candidates who have ever set up an exploratory committee who have not found an immediate ratification from that committee for their running.
Vignarajah released a statement on the matter that reads in part, "Folks have never been more frustrated with, quote, ineptitude and corruption."
Hands have been provided and will arrive in the next 2 weeks. This comes just 2 days after Baltimore residents took to social media to share pictures of DPW's 2024 calendar. Those photos show several errors, including missing and extra dates, such as adding a November 31st. Residents tell Fox 45 it was a waste of money for the department.
What are we doing with our money? We're paying this money as, taxpayers, the citizens that live in the city. We want it to be good to use, but also people make mistakes and errors happen, and that's what happens in life.
In a statement to Fox 45, DPW says it regrets the mistakes and has initiated a review of its editorial process. A troubling trend this week as multiple guns were found in city schools. Some students, others from employees, according to police. How students and parents are reacting.
I'm Wyatt Everhart. You can see here on radar a little bit of activity out toward the Detroit area, but quiet across Maryland. We'll talk about how long that holds up. Will we get through Christmas and beyond?
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Happening today, the Maryland Transportation Authority says light rail services will resume. Service was temporarily suspended back on December 8th. At the time, MTA officials explained that a fire that occurred earlier in the year prompted the need to inspect all 53 light rail cars. With the service resuming today, the shuttle will no longer run. As a courtesy to riders, light rail service will be free until January 2nd. A new candidate could shake up a 2024 race. Why Tharu Vignarajah says he's considering another mayoral run. A man sworn to serve and protect turns on his own family. The efforts to track down a man accused of child abuse. That's next on Maryland's Most Wanted. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News Weekend Edition, all local. An ex-cop accused of sexual assault seemingly vanished 25 years ago. Investigators say he changed his identity and began living an unassuming life. Here's Alexa Ashwell with this week's Maryland's Most Wanted.
Edward Reich is now 73 years old. He once wore the badge, a symbol of authority, a promise to protect. Investigators say he abused that trust when he sexually assaulted a relative, then vanished nearly 25 years ago. Thanksgiving 1999, Baltimore City's Pigtown community. Former police officer Edward Reich is having family over for the holiday. Dinner is over. The adults are upstairs getting ready for bed, and the kids settling into the basement where they'll be sleeping for the night. But Reich, wide awake, and investigators say, plotting.
So in this case, Reich was very calculated.
Investigators say once everyone fell asleep, Reich approached his niece on the couch and began to sexually assault her. The teen, terrified, pretends to be asleep.
She became even more alarmed. She heard the clicking of a camera and flashes, and that let her know that ultimately he was taking photos.
Investigators say the abuse continued until finally the teen ran upstairs and told her parents.
Reich allegedly fled the scene.
Reich vanished. The victim is taken to an area hospital where her parents' fears are confirmed.
So when the doctors examined the child at the hospital, they confirmed that a sexual assault did in fact take place.
A warrant is issued for the former cop's arrest, but Reich is nowhere to be found. Years pass, and the case goes cold. Reich flees his own house in 1999 and hasn't been seen since.
He knows how law enforcement works. He knows how we search for people. He's very familiar with our operations, and consequently, he's been able to fly under the radar.
Federal agents now joining the search. Investigators believe Reich has changed his identity.
We have information indicating that the individual did in fact change his identity. That photo that we provided actually is literally 2 decades old. There's a very good chance that this individual has changed dramatically.
And is now living a simple and unassuming life somewhere amongst unsuspecting families.
There's a very good chance that people would look at him and assume he is a law-abiding citizen. He would be well aware that any information in terms of criminal contact or anything like that would lead to his capture. So there's a very good chance that he's maintaining a very low profile in hopes that this crime can just go away.
A once cop turned predator turned fugitive who investigators stress should be considered dangerous and calculated.
In this case, we're talking about a former police officer here. It is deplorable that anyone would participate in this type of behavior, but it's even more egregious when someone who is sworn to uphold the law breaks it. Anytime you have a sexual offender, you have to realize that these individuals are very good at flying under the radar. They continue the same modus operandi. They continue to find people that they can exploit and victimize them. I guarantee you that this is only one of potentially many victims.
Again, Reich now more than 20 years older than seen here in these pictures, so likely a change to his hair, the glasses. Investigators say he stands at about 5'11" and weighs approximately 200 pounds. If you have any information regarding his whereabouts, you're asked to contact the U.S. Marshal Service, the tip line number right here, 1-877-WANTED-2. Or you can contact agents directly at 202-819-5058. Remember, you can always remain anonymous, and you could earn a reward. I'm Alexa Ashwell, and this is Maryland's Most Wanted.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about your forecast. Meteorologist White Everhart with a look at what we're expecting. I mean, it's nice in December if you can open your windows and kind of just let the air in. It's not too cold. It's kind of balmy, but it's been nice.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, this is like not brutal winter weather at all. You look at the old records this time of year going into Christmas, Taylor, like 0, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees. So yeah, I mean, not really severe winter temperatures, that's to say the least. But a little chill in the air this morning. And to the north and west, there is some active weather on the board. Here in the East Coast, travel trouble spots, people flying out for the Christmas holiday toward Detroit or connecting through places like Cleveland and Columbus. Those are your areas getting the active weather this morning. 38 right now, BWI, so yeah, not terribly frigid by late December standards in Maryland. A light northeast wind and temperatures now running in the mid to upper 30s for the most part out there. Owings Mills 34, Bel Air 33. We've got a 38 out of Dundalk right now. Winds are generally light and variable this morning, so not much wind to deal with. Looking at our Christmas Eve forecast through this Saturday, temperatures climbing slowly but surely through the 40s. I think we'll top out today close to 50 degrees, a mostly dry scenario for you. And across the mid-Atlantic, you know, the coldest air definitely out toward the high terrain in Cumberland and toward Deep Creek Lake, points west. There you'll find some sub-freezing weather. But for the immediate metro area, Baltimore, D.C., we're talking temperatures just above freezing. And in terms of the active weather, you know, a couple light showers to our west, but mainly it's a little bit of a wintry mix up there toward the U.S.-Canadian border, toward like Windsor and up toward Montreal. Today there'll be a little bit of active weather in that direction as well, if your travels happen to take you toward that direction. Overall, we checked Future Scan. You can see that disturbance staying mostly north of Maryland and Baltimore, though a couple of stray showers possible late day today. Not going to be much, but a few showers, a few raindrops on the windshield kind of scenario. And then on into our Sunday, Christmas Eve, just partly cloudy. Much the same, I think, on Christmas Day. So if anything, there is slightly better weather around here as we go into the actual holidays. And if you look at the U.S. map here, relatively, you know, we'll say we're kind of in a seasonably cold section here in the middle of the country. It's a little bit milder. Let's check the 7-day forecast quickly here. And you can see that throughout the holiday period here, we're actually going to warm up a little bit into the low 50s. Scattered showers becoming more likely as we push toward the Tuesday timeframe, the day after Christmas. Back to you.
I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington. Coming up, why lawmakers are concerned the terror watch list itself might be a national security risk.
And 5 guns found in city schools in the last week. The investigation's underway, and why one involved As millions of Americans travel this holiday season, they will encounter long security lines at airports. Sinclair National correspondent Kayla Gaskins says senators worry the measures in place may be stretched too thin.
The hustle and bustle of holiday travel filling airports nationwide. TSA on track to screen a near record number of passengers over the coming days. Long security lines became the new normal following the terror attacks on September 11th, 2001. This time period also saw the creation of the terror watch list, identifying individuals who could want to harm America. That list now coming under scrutiny by Senate Democrats. A recently published 43-page report raises concerns about how the list is being maintained and implemented by the Department of Homeland Security.
There's an increasing obligation upon DHS to do more and more and more things with the same resources.
The report points out a watch list that's not properly maintained is itself a national security risk. Lawmakers worry the list is overbroad, possibly including people who shouldn't be on it. Aram Gavor, an associate dean for GW Law School, says it's hard to get off the list once you're on it.
That takes case-by-case individualized attention, which is time intensive.
The watch list continues to grow exponentially, doubling in size in the last 6 years. Now about 2 million people are on it, mostly foreigners. Less than 7,000 of the total list are U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents. But Gavor argues the list does appear to be doing its job.
We have not seen another September 11th style attack in terms of scope. And that can be classified as a success.
The list is also being used to monitor security at the southern border as people on the terror watch list attempt to enter the country illegally. The border crisis is yet another strain on the already limited resources of the Department of Homeland Security. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
Our crews were at BWI yesterday as we saw hundreds of people traveling, lining up in those long TSA and check-in lines to get to their holiday destinations. Airlines say they are ready after last year's holiday meltdown, causing widespread delays and cancellations. Airlines canceled less than 1% of flights so far this year. That's according to FlightAware. In our next hour, Project Baltimore investigates the troubling trend of chronic absenteeism in city schools and how it's impacting the system as a whole. Oh my goodness, just look at those skies. Look at those skies. You're looking live over Charm City at our gorgeous Inner Harbor. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News Weekend Edition. All local, all
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. Looking live over Charm City before the sun rises. What a gorgeous shot that is. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News this Saturday, December 23rd. Maybe you're traveling, maybe you're in the airport getting to where you're trying to go. Let's get you off to the forecast so you know exactly what to expect. Meteorologist White Everhart with what we're working with this morning.
Hey, Taylor. Yeah, I mean, look, it's relatively quiet, murky, a little bit of cloud cover out there, but on the whole, I think decent travel weather out of BWI, out of the surrounding airports, Philly all the way down into D.C. look good. Temperatures above freezing, anywhere from the mid to upper 30s, 40 in the city right now. 35 in Denton, 39 in Stevensville, and 40 in Annapolis. You can see the main active weather on the board here for the Central East Coast going to be toward the Cleveland, Chicago, and Detroit area. A little bit of a disturbance moving through there. Primarily a rain event, though, so that helps travelers connecting through those airports, or perhaps that's a destination. Won't be snow that way, but there will be wet weather. Take a look at the overall pattern through the day today, up to close to 50, mostly cloudy most of the day. We'll talk about the setup for Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. That's coming up.
Continuing coverage this morning, under Mayor Scott, the city is set to fall potentially below 300 homicides for the first time in 9 years. But mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon has criticized the mayor's crime plan, leading to a stern response from Scott himself. Take a listen.
I have to deal with the city on a regular basis with my clients, and I can see the dysfunction, not in one agency, but practically in every agency. And that is reflected of the leadership. You know, and it's reflected in who you hire, the people that work for you. I've never seen city government so dysfunctional as it is now.
Leadership that's failing the city is almost a laughable comment when my leadership has the city on pace to be under 300 homicides for the first time in 9 years. Investing in our education, opening rec centers, not closing them like the person he's endorsing did when she was mayor.
Many attribute the drop in homicides to the partnership between City State Attorney Ivan Bates and U.S. Attorney Eric Barron. Both promised a tougher on crime approach in the city. Homicides are down 20%, and non-fatal shootings also down 9% since the partnership began. While shootings are down across the city, residents are continuing to voice frustration around issues like carjackings, burglaries, and robberies. Many of those cases involve juveniles, including a recent home break-in caught on camera in Madison Park.
As a homeowner, you know, you work hard to have the things that you have, and for somebody to come in and to invade your space, yes, that's just ridiculous.
Fox 45's Vincent Hill shares the troubling video amid community outrage about the uptick in juvenile crime.
Look at this group of juveniles who appear to be hanging out. Seconds later, another camera captures what they do next. The young burglars then make themselves at home, even going through the fridge while the homeowner's dog is feet away.
This is just crazy. Go in the fridge like they're at their own house.
Fox 45 showed the video to Pastor David Grissom, whose church is in the neighborhood.
Our young people need much guidance. They need a lot of prayer. They need an old-fashioned whipping.
Grissom says things could have gone really bad really fast.
If the homeowner was there, if the homeowner would have shot one of them, then parent would have been on TV.
According to the homeowner, the juveniles were arrested, but because of their age, released just a few hours later.
Baby booking is not always the answer for some of these kids, because some of them are just outrageous.
Brazen crimes committed by juveniles, a heated topic at this week's Your Voice, Your Future town hall, hosted by Fox 45.
A hospitality worker was held up outside of my front window at gunpoint at 3 in the afternoon. Later on that night, 3 teenagers came back looking for the evidence they discarded, running away from police.
And the fear of no consequences brought up in Monday's town hall on juvenile crime, with DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi front and center.
I also know kids that are laughing at the cops when they arrest them. And I know the cops that are frustrated by rearresting the same juveniles.
Grissom, like many others, looking to Annapolis for change to the ever-growing juvenile crime crisis.
It is my prayer that laws be on the books that will really do something about this crime. It is outrageous. It is outrageous. And something really needs to be done. I want to see the governor get behind the state's attorney.
This morning, we're learning it was an instructional assistant who allegedly brought a loaded handgun to Kip Harmony Academy yesterday. Charging documents for Tracy Minor reveal a custodian found a gun inside her purse. According to police, Minor said she was rushing to get to work and had no intention of bringing the bag to school. Minor claims she uses the gun for protection, telling police she drives for Uber after work. Baltimore City Schools say Minor is not a district employee.
As a parent, as a grandparent, I'm sure that people, who have kids at Baltimore City Schools have a lot of questions.
Well, that reaction from a law enforcement expert after 5 guns were recovered from Baltimore City Schools in just the last 2 days. FOX45's Amy Simpson has more on the alarming number of guns that have been confiscated.
September, an 8th grade student arrested after a gun was found at Cherry Hill Elementary Middle School. Later that month, a 15-year-old Dunbar High School student accidentally shot himself in the leg while on school property.
That's just messed up. Like, why you gotta get a gun? Like, why can't you just tell your parents about it?
In October, a 7th grade student was taken into custody after bringing a loaded handgun to Joseph Briscoe Academy. By late November, a gun was found inside a student's backpack at Creative City Charter School. Sources told Fox 45 News that student was just 7 years old. And finally this week, a 15-year-old Dunbar High School student arrested Wednesday. Sources said 3 loaded guns were tied to the teen, and 2 incidents Thursday. An instructional assistant charged for bringing a loaded gun to Kip Harmony Academy in the morning. And by later that afternoon, a gun found at Frederick Douglass High School.
I mean, that's unacceptable.
This week's incidents totaling 5 guns recovered from inside city schools in just 2 days.
They come in through our scanners, and we even had the wands to wand them too. So how they got them in there, I really don't know. I really don't know how it got in there, because we do a thorough job of making sure that we screen everybody to come into the school.
It definitely makes me say that perhaps I need to move my child out of the school.
A national law enforcement expert on the prevalence of kids and teens with weapons.
When we talk about juvenile crime, the problem is people who are under the age of 18 know that they are not going to face much, if any, punishment if they commit a felony like bringing a gun to school.
We questioned Baltimore City Schools, in part asking how guns are evading metal detectors at city high schools. The district not directly answering that question, but saying it relies on screenings at controlled entry points, metal detectors at high schools, city schools police, and reports of inappropriate activity to keep guns from getting on campus. City schools did indicate it was a student or staff member who alerted to the weapons found at both Kip Harmony and Douglass High School this week.
City residents fed up with new bike lanes in certain neighborhoods, why someone who originally wanted the change is now reconsidering that decision. More on that story later.
All right, on the weather front, some cloud cover across Maryland, but no real active weather until you get toward Detroit and the Great Lakes states, as well as out toward Denver, Colorado. Will we keep the clear weather around for Santa and Christmas? We've got those details.
Developing now, the Baltimore City State Attorney's Office is going to retry Joseph Black on 4 charges surrounding a 2022 traffic stop. This case goes back to Black allegedly hitting and dragging a police officer with his car. In court back on Thursday, Black was found not guilty on 1st and 2nd degree attempted murder, but a judge declared a mistrial on 4 other charges. That includes assault and illegal gun possession. State Attorney Ivan Bates says he respects the partial verdict handed down, but he's committed to doing everything in his power to find justice for Sergeant Kenneth Ramberg, the officer injured in this incident. Now also developing, nearly 64 fugitives here in Maryland are off the streets. The arrests are part of Operation Washout, a 2-week investigation that federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies are working on together. Among the fugitives taken into custody, officials say 4 suspects were wanted for murder, 9 for attempted murder, 3 for armed carjackings, 15 for assault. Officials say they also found 17 firearms and more than 2,000 kilograms of narcotics and more than $8,000 in cash during this investigation. After over 300 complaints to DPW for more frequent trash pickup, the agency completely removed the bins, leaving a bigger mess. Why DPW did this? Those details ahead in our 8 o'clock hour. Will your package make it on time for Christmas? Well, the Postal Service is working fast and furiously to get it where it needs to go. This morning, Amanda Henderson with our affiliate in San Antonio has a behind-the-scenes look at the holiday rush.
They say there are 3 stages to gift giving: knowing you have plenty of time, cutting it close, or just hoping it will make it.
Well, we are running a lot, but we plan for this all year long.
Safe to say these pieces of mail,
you name it, we get it,
are part of that last category. Kim Calderon has been at this for 30 years. This is the Postal Service's most critical time, ensuring every oversized package is sent out as quickly as possible.
Not only coming in from the rest of the world, but also going out to the rest of the world.
Right now, the Postal Service is receiving a staggering 250 to 350,000 daily.
You might be wondering exactly how many packages and pieces of mail that equals out to. Well, the short answer is a lot. So you might be asking yourself now, how are they going to be able to get it to my family or to myself in time for the holidays?
We're here 10, 12 hours a day. I tell the employees, the supervisor here is, we're all one. We're a family because we're going to be here more than we're at home.
This distribution center is divided into an area for local packages.
Some of our other outer reaching areas.
A little further over,
we'll see dispatches that are going out all across the United States.
So if you sit here for a few minutes to observe, you'll see a constant flow of mail, both in and out of the Northeast Side facility.
That's our main goal, is we want to provide, the best service we can to our customers.
Rick Torres has worked here for 13 years. He says this year's numbers are in line with what they saw in 2020 during the pandemic. The distribution operations supervisor says there's no downtime during this mad dash to get holiday mail back on the road.
It is crazy, but, we're going to get the job done.
Reporting in Converse, I'm Amanda Henderson.
Even if your packages are delivered on time, the threat of porch pirates continues to grow. Companies and law enforcement are trying to find ways to curb it. An October survey from the Chamber of Commerce found that 26% of online shoppers have fallen victim to porch pirates. Earlier this week on Fox 45 News, we spoke with the Falston Group, Rob Weinhold, on financial impacts the Grinches can have on you on the holidays and beyond.
Well, the statistics are unbelievable. They say 1.7 million packages daily are stolen or lost, right? And the average family gets about 27 packages annually. So if you look at the stats, it's about 1 in 5 families are victims of theft. So what does that mean? That means that companies are going to charge more because they've got to deal with some of the loss prevention. You have units who go out and investigate. You've got credit card companies who do the same. So the ripple effect is pretty massive, and so the economic impact is there. And consumers need to do everything they can to try to protect their belongings, from Ring cameras to putting packages in secure locations, demanding signatures so they can bring the packages inside of the homes. So there's lots you can do, but unfortunately, there's a lot of Grinches running around town these days.
Another tip from experts, use a smart locker. Companies like Amazon and Lowe's have them available. All right, let's go ahead and check on your forecast. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart, the big concern today is, will the skies be clear for anyone who's either driving, flying? I mean, what are we looking at? I see something, but that's not here.
I even noticed early this morning, like on the way to the station, there's already more traffic than normal, right? People got to get where they got to go for these holiday plans. And I will tell you right now, the main travel trouble spot, at least on the eastern third of the country, is going to be up toward the Great Lakes, Detroit, Cleveland, those areas. Otherwise, just cloudy around Maryland, D.C., Philly. This region really looks pretty quiet today and tomorrow, and even into Christmas Day. 38 right now, BWI. Winds are northeast at 5 miles per hour. Temperatures running on the chilly side this morning, but above freezing at least. We've got 33 in Owings Mills, 37 Essex, 32 in Bel Air at the freezing mark there. But again, most spots a little bit above that freezing mark. Light breezes, not much wind to deal with. On the whole, really not a bad day, but nothing exceptional either. We stay relatively cloudy today, and we do push up slowly to around 50 degrees late this afternoon. Most of the day today is going to be in the 40s, though, so definitely dress appropriately for that if you're out and about. Last second shopping. I know some of us still have to get some of that done. You can see the rain out there toward Cleveland, toward Columbus, and down through Pittsburgh. That is mainly liquid precipitation. We don't have much snow, if any, on the board, even in those northern areas. A little bit of a wintry mix once you go north of the Canadian border up here toward the Montreal area and north of Niagara Falls. Other than that, it's not much of a wintry look out there whatsoever, even as we knock on the door of Christmas. You can see future scan shows that system generally tracking to our north, bringing a little more snow up into Canada, a little more rain into the northeast, and I think, excuse me, maybe a shower or two could hit the Baltimore area as we go into the late day today. Not much rain, but a few drops certainly could hit the windshield. Mostly cloudy for your Christmas Eve day. And then in the early Christmas morning, it looks like Santa and all the helpers out there will have pretty decent weather to start Christmas Day. Just a few clouds around. The temperatures are interesting. We've got some cold air locked in across the mountain northwest, and then we've also got it here in New England, reaching down to Baltimore. Milder air in the country's midsection is going to drift our direction as we go into Christmas itself. So we're going to briefly milder here as we go from Sunday into Monday. Christmas Day, kind of one of the milder days here on the outlook, as well as Wednesday of next week. So kind of a mild stretch here in the 50s. The main chance for uglier weather, for quite a bit of rain, the day after Christmas into Wednesday. That is our next time frame for a new weather maker.
Coming up this morning in Sports Unlimited, the Ravens prepare for their Christmas Day matchup against the 49ers. Plus, the Orioles mourning the loss of one of their very own. This ahead in Sports Unlimited.
Welcome into your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. The Christmas night game between the Ravens and 49ers will bring out the best in both, and it should. It's the top two teams in the league will go head-to-head in prime time with bragging rights, an MVP race, and the league's best record all on the line. The 49ers' high-powered offense is getting a lot of the headlines, led by Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, as well as Deebo Samuel. They rank second in yards and points per game, but they haven't played the Ravens, a defense that averages the fewest points against and one that has weapons of its own.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of weapons and has a really good distributor in Purdy who can get it out to those guys. But McCaffrey, his work speaks for itself. You got Samuel out there. You have a really good offensive line as well, headed by Big Trent on the outside and Kittle at tight end. So the guys definitely have a lot of weapons, but so do we. I feel like I like our team versus any team, you know, and that's my confidence each and every week. And I have the utmost respect in our guys, and I know the way we prepare. So I'm betting on us if you care to hear.
Despite identical records and playmakers on both sides of the ball, the 49ers opened at 5.5-point favorites in this one. Lamar Jackson, he's fine with being the underdog. Jackson says he believes the team plays better when they're doubted. At the end of the day, it's bulletin board material for the team, as if they needed any extra motivation ahead of this one.
Externally, I don't know what it is, but whether it's the lack of primetime games we've got or whatever, but I think the 11 and 3s are not created equal right now in terms of the 49ers versus us, and we feel a little disrespected by that. I feel like we are the best team in the league, and we've got an opportunity in front of the country to show it.
Here's a look at the injury report. After missing Thursday's practice with an illness, Odell Beckham Jr. was a full participant on Friday. Zay Flowers practiced in full as well after being limited Thursday. Same for Marcus Williams and Ronnie Stanley, while Arthur Millette did not practice on Friday with a knee injury. Health is key for the Ravens, especially ahead of this matchup with the 49ers. Winners of 3 straight entering the night. Maryland men's basketball looked for its 4th win in a row. Terps out west taking on future Big Ten opponent UCLA. Terps jumped out to a big lead in this one second half. Jameer Young getting busy. Puts the Terps up 20 with the jumper. Game's in the bag, right? You would think. But a 27-9 run for the Bruins made this a 2-point game late. Jameer Young had seen enough at that point. Big bucket here to silence the crowd. Career high 37 from Young as Maryland beats UCLA 69-60. Towson men's undefeated at home playing host to Nichols. Christian May getting after it. He dropped 16, his 4th straight game with 15 or more. Nenda Tark adding 13 of his own as the Tigers improved to 6-6 with a 65-55 victory. Towson women's basketball looking to bounce back from its loss to Maryland. Tigers taking on George Mason. Kylie Cornegay-Lucas had a monster game for Towson, a near triple-double, 22 points, 14 rebounds and 8 assists, but it just wasn't enough as the Tigers fall to George Mason 83-76. In other scores, Loyola men's basketball picks up a 91-57 win over St. Mary's of Maryland, while Morgan State falls to number 20 James Madison 89-75. In sad news, the Orioles have announced the passing of former third baseman and longtime minor league manager Ryan Miner, who was fighting cancer. Miner was selected in both the NBA and MLB drafts, playing 4 seasons here in Baltimore, replacing Cal Ripken Jr. to end that Ironman streak. After his playing career, Miner managed the Delmarva Shorebirds and the Frederick Keys. Ryan Miner was 49 years old.
I am continuing to look at those schools personally. We will be making additional shifts as necessary, and to know that we're not satisfied.
Project Baltimore with a closer look at the role of chronic absenteeism in city schools and why district leaders call it the biggest issue facing the school system.
They just take our trash cans, put them in the trash truck, and dispose of them. They crush them. You know, what are we supposed to do now?
A case of the missing trash can solved on video. How surveillance video caught a garbage truck taking the can, just not the trash.
All right, weather-wise on the radar, we are clear across Maryland. There is some action off to the west. We'll talk about, could that have any impact to your Christmas travel plans coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you, looking live over Towson this Saturday, December 23rd. Thanks for being with us. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's go ahead and talk about your forecast, because a lot of people are either settling in at grandma's or they're trying to get to grandma's, and we want to know if they can get there on the roads and in the skies, looking all clear.
It is all about grandma. We want to make sure she's doing well. We're getting there as we need to, and I think we're looking pretty good weather-wise here throughout most of the Christmas holiday weekend, actually. Cloud cover today, maybe a few late day showers. Most of the really active weather's up here toward the Great Lakes and also back into the Mountain West toward Denver. So overall, it's a relatively quiet setup weather-wise into Christmas itself around here. Cloudy conditions, chilly this morning in the 40s. We're going to be slow to warm to 50 today. We'll talk about some slightly warmer weather coming by Christmas. That's coming up.
This year, Baltimore City Public Schools will spend a record amount of money per pupil, but are those students coming to class? Chris Paffs explains the new data that nearly 2/3 of city school students are not earning the highest possible performing gradings in the state. In fact, they come in at the bottom.
These are the buildings that our young people deserve.
In Northwest Baltimore last week,
I am very pleased.
City leaders gathered to mark a milestone.
We know how important these celebrations are.
A ribbon cutting to open the newly built Cross Country Elementary Middle School, the latest project funded by the 21st Century School Building Program. But as City Schools continues meeting construction goals, is failing to meet academic goals. The Maryland State Department of Education, also last week, released the results of the 2023 school report card. Every year, roughly 1,300 public schools in the state are rated based on performance metrics, such as test scores, attendance, and graduation rates. Each school then receives a star rating from a low of 1 star to a high of 5 stars. Project Baltimore analyzed this year's data and found 65% of Baltimore City's 148 schools earned 1 or 2 stars, the lowest possible rating. That means Baltimore City has by far the highest percentage of 1 and 2 star schools in the state, and more than double the next highest district in our region, Baltimore County, at about 27%. In Anne Arundel County, around 11% of schools earned 1 or 2 stars. It's 4% in Howard County, and just about 3% in Carroll County. Baltimore City Schools this year has a $1.7 billion budget to educate about 75,000 students. The school system is now spending more than $22,000 per student, which is one of the highest amounts in America when looking at large school systems. Yet despite that amount of spending, nearly 2/3 of all city schools received the lowest possible ratings from the state.
Hi, Chris.
Following the ribbon cutting at Cross Country, we asked City Schools CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises about these results.
What do you say to the tens of thousands of families that have children in those schools?
To those families, what I would say is I am continuing to look at those schools personally. We will be making additional shifts as necessary, and to know that we're not satisfied.
Santelises told Fox 45 one of the biggest obstacles to students student success is chronic absenteeism, which is defined by the state as a student who misses more than 10% of school, or 19 days, over an entire school year.
That there are many people.
In 2016, when Dr. Santelises took over as CEO, 23% of Baltimore City students were chronically absent. In 2019, that number nearly doubled to 42%. By 2022, 58% of Baltimore City students were chronically absent, the highest level in the state. As we looked deeper into the report card, we can see the 6 lowest performing schools in Maryland are all in Baltimore City. In total, more than 1,800 students attend these schools. At each one, more students are chronically absent than not. At Excel Academy, 98.7% of students are chronically absent. 98.7%.
I think what we're seeing is disconnection between school and youth and families that occurred during the pandemic.
Dr. Santelises said the school district has invested in outreach, trying to find students and get them to school. She told Project Baltimore the district re-engaged about 2,400 students this past year, far more than before the pandemic.
What that says to me is we have to work more closely with our community partners and really, frankly, making school and learning compelling for young people. Yes, it's an issue in Baltimore City, and it's an issue, like I said, across the state and country, but we're working on it.
When the star ratings were released by the state last week, Project Baltimore analyzed the results for the main school systems in the Baltimore region. You can find that story and a link to the data if you would like to see how your child's school performed on our website, foxbaltimore.com. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
All right, joining us live this morning to discuss some of the results and the symptoms of the 2023 report card, as well as the response from Dr. Sonia Santelises. We've got with us Dr. Reverend Al Hathaway. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How you doing? Great to be here.
I'm doing well. Great to have you here. So when you look kind of at where the state stands, or where they rank Baltimore, Dr. Sonia Santelises has mentioned that chronic absenteeism is a primary driver for the low scores. Why do you think it is there's such an issue getting students to school? They said they made improvement, but the rates are still chronically low.
You know, if I look really at it closely, we got to recognize that we really need to do what we did with the police department. Baltimore City needs to take control of Baltimore City Public Schools. There's 2 things that are needed. First, you need to be able to intervene. When you have a problem, you need to be able to intervene. And the second, you need to be able to incentivize. So one of the challenges I see is that we as a city, and we talk about 75,000 of our children attending there, Baltimore City itself is not able to intervene when we see a problem. It should not be left up solely to the Baltimore City Public Schools. So I believe that we should take control of Baltimore City Public Schools so that therefore we can respond totally to this problem.
I mean, when you think about intervene and respond, the first thing that comes to my mind is this past week, there were 5 guns found inside schools. This is right before winter break. How do you make schools feel like a safe place where students can come in and feel like situations like this are not going to occur?
Well, fundamentally, you have to have control. And so what you have to look at, our schools are out of control. The schools are out of control because you have so many different agencies that interact. You got to have a central point of control. I think this is now the time, since we're in an election, I think it's the time for the mayor to say, or the mayor candidates to say, we need to take control of our Baltimore City Public Schools.
Just curious, do you think this, I mean, over the last few years, we've seen Dr. Sonia Santelises make progress in some areas, and others, there have been critics as to how much progress is being made. When you think about control, do you think about the system as a whole, or are you more so looking at the folks at the top?
All of it, yes. Baltimore City once had control of Baltimore City Public Schools. It gave that over to the state. As a result, we ended up with an independent body. We need that body to come back in so that there's clear accountability. And the best person to have accountability is to the mayor, who represents the citizens of Baltimore. Therefore, Sonia Santelises, who's reporting to a school board, she'll be reporting directly to the citizens of Baltimore City.
Okay, we'll see how that impacts the mayoral race. I know schools are certainly top of mind, not only for parents, but for just folks who live here. And so we'll have to see how this all plays out in the upcoming election.
Well, I would say to you that since we want to take control of the Baltimore City Police Department, we should also take control of Baltimore City Public Schools.
All right, we'll leave right there. Dr. Reverend Al Hathaway, thank you.
Thank you.
A crucial transportation method returns to Baltimore City. How the MTA is compensating those who were unable to ride the light rail in the last few weeks.
And this Christmas Eve will be in the 40s much of the day under the clouds, but some slightly milder conditions setting up for Christmas. We'll talk about that when the next big rainmaker arrives. It's coming up.
All right, happening today, light rail service resumes. That's according to the Maryland Transportation Authority. Services were temporarily suspended back on December 8th. Officials then explained that a fire from earlier in the year led them to inspect all 53 light rail cars. Now, with service resuming today, the shuttle buses that have operated will no longer operate. As a courtesy to riders, light rail service will be free until January 2nd. A former Baltimore mayor talking about bike lanes, why he says he regrets his decision to approve the amendment during his time at City Council. In the last few months, Fox 45 News has heard from a number of people who say they're fed up with new bike lanes. Some say they're causing more backup for traffic. Others say they make the streets less safe. Now, a former mayor who advocated for those bike lanes says he regrets signing that legislation. Fox 45's Jeff Abel shares his frustrations.
I don't see anyone riding.
For the longest time, those who pedal through the city counted on a friend at City Hall.
Because I ride bikes myself. I haven't rode them in a while, though. But, you know, you just can't just wake up in the morning and bike lanes is in your neighborhood and nobody talk to you.
When he was mayor 4 years ago, Jack Young was a leading proponent of bikes. He even signed legislation aimed at expanding them. 4 years later.
You regret signing it?
Yeah, I regret signing it. Absolutely, I regret signing it, yes. Because this wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Since leaving office, he's watched the city redesign its roadways. In some cases, 4-lane roads have become 2-lane roads to accommodate bike lanes, where in some neighborhoods, you'll likely never see a bike. You will, however, see this. Traffic backed up for blocks.
My thought was that we need to have alternative for people who ride bikes to be able to get around the city, but not to the magnitude of this. You know, it's just totally ridiculous how they're building all these bike lanes, putting these flex lanes up, and the streets look a mess.
The majority of people do not want tens of millions of dollars to be spent or misspent on making it harder to pass through the streets of Baltimore.
No bike lanes. The people who are being affected and victimized by these decisions, these arbitrary and capricious spending of dollars, seem to have no voice. We've been ghosted by government.
Residents along Gwynns Falls Parkway say they were never allowed input on their redesigned road, a road emergency vehicles now drive around because there's no longer room to drive through.
If I was the mayor, I would call a moratorium until such time as communities are getting really, engaged in this whole process. I mean, are you listening to the citizens? People are complaining.
Meantime, in Baltimore County, the Planning Commission is deciding whether to add 70 miles of new bike lanes. One lane would be built along York Road and Charles Street. Some residents say that is a problem.
Would you ride a bike on this road?
Nah, I won't even let my kids ride a bike.
As a resident, I just don't know how much use actual bikers would get out of them. I think you need to get the data first from the bikers and say, are you using these roads? Is this the route you would even take?
The Planning Commission is set to vote on the proposal in January. Fox 45 News has done some extensive reporting on bike lanes in our region and the impact they're having on residents, drivers, and cyclists. You can find our coverage at foxbaltimore.com. All right, bike lane or not, if you like the cold, if you're into a chilly winter morning, go for a bike ride. Why not? Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart with a look at what we've got as clear skies this morning.
Yeah, Taylor, look, no such thing as bad weather, right? Just bad clothing. So if you're layered up right, you go for a run, you go for a bike ride, whatever you want to do all year round. But I will say this, kind of cloudy today, a little chill this morning. Closest active weather for Christmas travelers this Saturday. Christmas Eve is going to be toward the Detroit area up into Cleveland here. We've got some active weather. Also just north of the Canadian border, winter weather coming down, icy mix there. And toward Chicago, we've got dense fog, so this can sometimes be a trouble spot for connecting flights when we have low visibility. Keep that in mind if you're connecting through Chicago today or that's your destination. 38 right now, BWI, a little bit of sun breaking through the clouds, trying to. Temperatures now on the chilly side, but mostly above freezing. Mid-30s out there, 38 in Baltimore itself. Most of the outer suburbs in the low to mid-30s. Very little wind. Don't expect much wind this afternoon. We do expect a little bit of a slow and steady climb, eventually up to 50 later today, even though it'll be cloudy and somewhat murky at times. Over the next couple of days, that cool, cloudy trend sort of continues, but we do go a bit milder by certainly Christmas Day afternoon, interestingly enough. And then our next main weather maker holds off until the day after Christmas, toward the middle of the week. That's when we get some decent rain around here. For now, the decent rain is coming down toward Cleveland, Detroit, and that is going to be primarily in the liquid form, so at least not winter weather. In fact, interesting, for Christmas weekend, we really don't have any winter weather anywhere here in the northeast U.S. even. You got, again, to go north of that Canadian line to find enough cold air to really produce true snow. Our future scan shows, as we go through the next few hours, more mixed conditions up there toward the U.S.-Canadian border. Here in the Maryland region, just a few showers, I think, late day today, not much. But but a few drops on the windshield possible. Then clouds breaking up a little bit more so Christmas Eve. And then into Christmas Day, it looks a little clearer and a little milder, so the kids can maybe get outside, play with some of those new toys if they're outdoor friendly type items. Looks pretty good Christmas afternoon. See that milder air across the country's midsection. Some of that's going to drift in to the central East Coast as we go again toward Christmas itself on Monday. After that, we'll bring in the rain Tuesday and Wednesday, but it won't come with much cold air. Definitely not a winter weather event, but it will be a weather event. Beyond Christmas, travelers trying to get back will be dealing with rain showers Tuesday. More of a steady rain, it looks like, as we go into the day on Wednesday. But for right now, Christmas Eve for St. Nick and everyone else in the Christmas Day, weather looking pretty quiet around here.
Multiple guns found in city schools ahead of winter break. In our next half hour, how students and parents are reacting. And a Civil War relic missing for more than 2 decades discovered. Coming up after the break, the remarkable story of how this rare artifact was found. A rare 10-ton artifact seemingly disappears. Our national investigative correspondent brought you a story 2 years ago of how a 20,000 civil pound war artillery piece disappeared from public display. It took 20 years before the community realized it had gone missing, and now it's been found. Mark Hyman has this remarkable story inside today's Inside Your World Investigates.
In your wildest dreams, did you think that somebody would find that?
No.
Retired Admiral Sam Cox is the director of Navy history. We met with him more than 2 years ago when we were trying to locate a 10-ton naval mortar identical to this one used during the Civil War. The mere existence of this rare artifact was a shock to him. You were surprised because you didn't know this mortar still existed, let alone it disappeared.
It had never come to my attention until you brought it to my attention, so I thank you for that.
We first learned of this artillery piece, known as a Seacoast mortar, from several caretakers who volunteer at Dayton, Ohio's Old Greencastle Cemetery, a resting place for approximately 300 veterans dating all the way back to the American Revolution. It sat in the cemetery for nearly a century. Air Force veteran Fred Lynch was passionate about the mortar's disappearance.
The Seacoast mortar was a grave marker honoring all of the veterans here, and it was meant to stay here.
The Navy loaned the mortar to the Dayton community more than a century ago. In 1998, cemetery officials sold it to a private collector from Allentown, Pennsylvania. Years later, it was sold again. and no one wanted to spill the beans on where it went. Using Google Earth, we examined a suspected location and found where the mortar was in 2016. It was gone 3 years later after it was sold the second time. We called public museums, private collectors, experts, and an auctioneer who specializes in cannon sales looking for the mortar. Then Admiral Cox gave us great news. The mortar was found by a member of the public.
You were visiting a museum and something caught your attention. What was that?
It was a piece of Civil War ordnance, what's known as a 13-inch seacoast mortar, and it was a piece of ordnance of interest because it had gone missing.
Todd Creekman is a retired Navy captain. He's also a Civil War history buff.
So how did you know that this thing was missing?
I knew because of the piece that you did in late 2021.
The mortar, identical to the one. Months after watching our news story, Captain Creekman visited a private artillery museum. Tucked into the back was a seacoast mortar, and he wondered, was it the missing one?
Cast into this huge piece of iron when it was made 150 plus years ago was a serial number that in the records that you had uncovered showed that it had been the one loaned by the Navy to Dayton all those years ago.
So does this story have a happy ending?
I think it does. Yeah, we found it. In the meantime, it's in a good place where it is. Everybody's happy.
For Inside Your World Investigates, I'm Mark Hyman in Washington, D.C.
A possible shakeup in Baltimore's mayoral race as Dhruv Vignarajah considers a run. Why this morning, one expert says it could be bad news for another candidate. And we're looking mild today with rain in the coming days. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart has your holiday weekend forecast just after the break. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News Weekend Edition, all local, all morning.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
And good morning to you on this Christmas Eve. Okay, we'll roll with that. It's 8/29, December 23rd, and you're watching Fox 45. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's go ahead and jump right into your forecast. Let's get over to meteorologist Wyatt Everhart with a look at what we have right now. Clear skies, but Midwest looking a little different.
Yeah. I mean, no real precipitation around Baltimore. That's a good thing for travelers, right, on Christmas Eve. But not so much the case as you go further north and west toward Cleveland and into the Detroit area. They've got rain coming down there. We've got fog out toward Chicago and Milwaukee. So it's connecting flights or destinations in that area. Just keep that in mind. Double check those flight schedules this morning. Otherwise, around Maryland, just upper 30s. We're above freezing in most spots. Hagerstown at the freezing mark. A little colder than that in Cumberland, but most of the Baltimore region above freezing. And really just a cloudy sky, but not really much in the way of precipitation. A little sun breaking through in Aberdeen and Easton. And through the day today, I think it's going to be a mix of sun and clouds, probably mostly cloudy most of the day, up to 50. Milder as we go toward Christmas Day, and then our next weather maker. All those details coming up.
In your election 2024 coverage, crime is expected to be a primary focus in next year's mayoral race. Fox 45 News is hearing from residents who say something needs to change inside City Hall to help the city grow safer.
Is what are you going to do tomorrow, not a year and a half from now, not January of 2025 after election outcomes, but what will you do today working with the current mayor, working with the leadership of the Baltimore Police Department to ensure that acts of violence are not occurring to residents on a daily basis now?
There could be a shakeup in the mayor's race. Former federal and state prosecutor Dhruv Vignarajah says he's forming an exploratory committee to weigh a mayoral bid. Fox 45's Keith Daniels looks at how this could reshape the race.
Dhruv Vignarajah back on the campaign trail to Baltimore City Hall's top job once again. Maybe. Vignarajah announcing Friday that he is forming a campaign exploratory committee. Dr. Richard Vatz.
Exploratory committees are usually symbolic.
A political rhetoric professor at Towson University on the would-be candidates' calculated move.
It tells that he's going to run. I mean, there are always exceptions, but I can't think of any major candidates who have ever set up an exploratory committee who have not found an immediate ratification from that committee for their running.
Vignarajah released a statement on the matter that reads in part, "Folks have never been more frustrated with, quote, ineptitude and corruption in city government." That statement, part of his motivation to once again consider running for mayor.
Once for mayor, twice for state's attorney.
Political scientist John Deedy.
Biggest problem he could have is you don't want to lose this race and then after this race become known as the perennial candidate. That's the worst thing you could be called. And people thinking of you as he's running again, it's never a good look.
Vignarajah, a Democrat, ran unsuccessfully twice for Baltimore City State's Attorney, the last time in 2022, and for mayor in 2020. Current Mayor Brandon Scott won the 2020 mayoral primary with nearly 30% of the vote, squeezing by current mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon. Vignarajah finished fourth with just over 11% of the vote. And now, some political observers believe, should Vignarajah choose to run again, he could, once again, shake things up, possibly splitting the vote when one candidate takes more votes from one candidate than another.
This time around, a lot of people feel that the vote splitting is with Sheila Dixon because they would be similar on issues related to crime and things like that.
It is. It's a real possibility. And in the worst situation for Sheila Dixon and for him, this could redound to the mayor's advantage. But I think it's a risk worth taking.
Vignarajah has remained a prominent figure in Baltimore as he's run for mayor and city state's attorney twice. He represented the family of Timothy Reynolds, the man who was killed by a squeegee kid near the Inner Harbor just last summer. A 16-year-old was convicted of voluntary manslaughter in that case. Vignarajah also filed suits most recently on behalf of Baltimore residents who claim BGE was installing external gas regulators and it was simply unsafe with other options. The city ultimately sided with them and banned the installation without homeowner approval.
City residents scored a major
victory, with CHAP unanimously deciding to block the installation of exterior regulators in historic districts across Baltimore.
Mayor Brandon Scott and former Mayor Sheila Dixon are the presumed frontrunners in the Democratic mayoral primary. But recent polling shows a sizable chunk could support a third candidate. A Goucher poll released in October shows 23% of people say they'd prefer a third candidate, while 39% back Sheila Dixon, 27% backing Mayor Scott. At least 8 other people have filed paperwork to enter the race. That includes teacher Wendy Bozell and businessman Bob Wallace. This brings us to our question of the day. If the mayoral primary was today, who would you vote for? Mayor Brandon Scott or former mayor Sheila Dixon, or a third candidate altogether? So far, 65% of those who have voted say a third candidate. You can go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
They just take our trash cans, put them in the trash truck, and dispose of them. They crush them. You know, what are we supposed to do now as a community to help keep our neighborhood clean? And when it's clean, it's also safe.
Who would destroy a pair of Baltimore's metal trash cans? That was a mystery for Mayoral Park residents until surveillance video showed a city garbage truck collecting those cans, just not the trash. The bin's disappearance came after dozens of 311 complaints requesting that the overflow of cans be emptied more often. Instead, the Department of Public Works cleared the curb but crushed the cans. Residents say the situation has left them confused.
Maybe somebody said, oh, you know, we'll fix them. We'll go ahead and pick them up and get rid of them. It's just like, come on, it's a community trash can. You all live in the city as well. I just don't get it.
In a statement to Fox 45 News, a DPW spokesperson writes in part, quote, "The unauthorized removal and destruction of these cans is prohibited, and as it goes against our commitment to providing quality services to the community." DPW also tells us cans could have been provided, and they actually will arrive in the next 2 weeks. This comes just 2 days after Baltimore residents took to social media to share pictures of DPW's 2024 calendar. Those photos show several errors, including missing and extra dates, such as adding a November 31st. Residents tell Fox 45 it was a waste of money from the department.
What are we doing with our money? We're paying this money as, you know, taxpayers, the citizens that live in the city. We want it to be good to use, but also people make mistakes and errors happen, and that's what happens in life.
In a statement to Fox 45, DPW says it regrets the mistakes and has initiated a review of its editorial process. Airport wait times may make your holiday vacation a little less holly and jolly. After the break, a look at the FlightAware Misery map.
All right, weather-wise, you can see we've got some action out here toward Detroit, Cleveland, and even Chicago. We'll talk about the impacts to travelers and what you might expect around here for Christmas Eve right through Christmas and beyond. It's
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight.
Well, look at that. Christmas just 2 days away, holiday travel in full swing, and you just got to hear the beautiful voices of BWI's TSA crew. They were welcoming holiday travelers to the airport as our crews were there yesterday morning. As you saw off your loved ones, hundreds of people you can see there lining up to go to their holiday destinations. U.S. Airlines say they're ready this year after last year's meltdown, resulting in widespread delays and cancellations. FlightAware this morning saying airlines have canceled less than 1% of flights so far this holiday season. A live look right now, those updated numbers this morning from BWI. There have been 36 delays to report, and so far they are all international flights. When it comes to cancellations, 2 flights have been canceled, but that's all to report this morning. Even though BWI is handling the holiday travel headache pretty well, a federal agency is trying to help you get through those crowded skies this holiday. They're borrowing a little extra airspace. The FAA is opening up airspace normally allotted for military officials across the East Coast and Gulf of Mexico. The move is meant to help ease commercial air crowding, and the FAA estimates 44,000 flights took off Friday, with another 49,000 flights on Thursday. The American Automobile Association saying the number of Americans traveling this period will be the second highest in more than 20 years. Wow. The Wall Street Journal says many airline passengers still don't know how to behave. In-flight disruptions are still happening at some worrisome levels. The FAA has recorded nearly 2,000 reports of incidents this year alone. That is up from before the pandemic, but down from the unprecedented peak of 5,900 in 2021. The TSA has opened 374 investigations into passengers interfering with checkpoint screenings so far this year. Today is a huge day for some last-minute shoppers. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart will let you know if the forecast will hold up in your favor. And after the break, we sit down with the author of this book right here, Santa Over Maryland, and what inspired her to write it. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News Weekend Edition, all local, all morning. They are. Well, 'twas the night before Christmas, and all through the Chesapeake Bay, the creatures were waiting for Santa's new sleigh. That is just an expert. Is that an okay expert?
Yes,
okay.
yes, definitely.
Well, Maryland's, this is going to happen. This is going to be here. Santa's Visit to Maryland. It's a parody of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, but with a bit of like a Charm City twist, right?
Right.
Joining us in the studio this morning to talk about her new book, author Lynn Roxy Gambrill, who also happens to be a Han, a Baltimore Han.
I am a Han. With David Du Bois and the I want crabs for Christmas Day. Yes, I am.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this. Santa's Visit to Maryland. There are a lot of iconic Maryland references in it. It's a very festive book. What inspired you to write it?
Well, I am a Hun, you know, with David Du Bois and his style of writing and his love for Maryland. I'm a full-time entertainer, musical entertainer, and I wanted to capture what Santa would see if he flew over our gorgeous state. There's a lot of memories. I'm deeply rooted in Maryland, so it just kind of flowed out on a car ride to D.C.
Give us a little, I don't want to give too much away, but there are some references to Old Bay.
Yes.
There's some other references to some other Maryland iconic traditions. Give us a few that are your favorite.
More rapid than Route 50, his reindeer they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. On Ripken, on Tubman, Johns Hopkins, Under Armour, through Essex, Little Italy. They were finally in Baltimore.
See, I knew I should never have read, because that was incredible. That was great. My director was actually reading me that segment of the book earlier.
Oh my gosh, that's fun.
And the really cool thing, though, too, is the pictures. Tell us about how you came up with some of these pictures, if we can maybe show some.
I mean, I take no credit for the pictures. That's my friend Leo Kale. He is just, I think they're stunning. I really do. Leo Kale, we went to high school together, and he graciously agreed to do this with me.
Maryland grown. We love it. So how can folks get this book this holiday?
They're in some local stores, but at this point, it's on barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, and there's an Audible version that you know people could have right away. That's on. You can go to amazon.com for that. If they want it right now, there's an ebook, again, on Amazon. This is the most popular thing to get, though, to hold it in your hand, you know?
Well, you know, Amazon certainly is the quickest way to get it done, especially as we round out for the holiday season. Thank you, Miss Gambrill, for joining us.
Pleasure.
And thank you. Welcome back, Han.
Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and get over to meteorologist Wyatt Everhart with a look at your forecast as Santa's getting ready to get on that sleigh, man.
I don't know. I follow that. So many traditions there, and just getting compressed into one kind of comprehensive encyclopedia. Beautiful overall start in terms of no rain, at least out there, no snow. For some, that's a negative, right? We like to see a white Christmas sometimes, and that will not be this year, my friends, nor will it be even up here toward Detroit and Cleveland. They're getting rain as we go into the Christmas weekend, but keep in mind, flight connections through these airports, that's where you could see a delay. Also toward Chicago, big connection airport, also a destination for some. They're socked in with the fog. So keep that in mind if your travels take you that way. Otherwise, around Maryland, and whether you're talking Deep Creek all the way to Ocean City, relatively quiet. Relatively just cloudy and on the cold side, but nothing frigid by late December standards. Lots of 30s on the board this morning, but mostly above freezing, and those winds are very, very light. So through the day, temperatures climbing up to around 50 by 2, 3, 4 o'clock, and under a mostly cloudy sky, but I think some of the murkiness will break up into the afternoon. A quiet and milder setup into Christmas Day itself. And then beyond that, next weather maker, not until the day after Christmas into the midweek. So that's overall good timing, I think, for the holidays. But there is some action off to the west this morning. Keep in mind if you're traveling that way. Otherwise, you know, we've got big high pressure well off to the north, and the return flow around that scenario basically means an overall milder trend setting up. Not so much today, but Christmas Eve day into Christmas, we're talking the potential to get well into the mid-50s as the clouds break up a little bit, let a little bit more sun through both Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I think. And both days should be staying relatively dry for all of us. So that's not such a bad deal. There is much milder weather ridging across the country's midsection. Some of that will flow in as we go toward Christmas Day itself, right here into the central East Coast. So you see the pattern above average. The average high this time of year, 46. We're going to run in the mid-50s right through Wednesday, but also bring in the rain chances as we go from Tuesday into Wednesday. A much wetter scenario here as we push toward the middle part of the week. So definitely be ready for that after Christmas. Back to you.
All right, well, with all the hustle and bustle of the holiday season, let's take some time to enjoy Christmas in Baltimore this weekend. Don't worry, there are plenty of things you can do leading up to Christmas Day, even in the days after. Starting off strong, of course, you need to visit the Magic at the Miracle on 34th Street. Even though Christmas is on Monday, you've got plenty of time to see it since lights will be up until New Year's Day. If you check them out today, you can do so between 5 p.m. and midnight. Tomorrow for Christmas Eve, they're closing down early, an hour earlier, so you can see those lights from 5 to 11. Up next, we're heading down to the Christmas Village. This is the perfect place to get those last-minute gifts from local vendors. Today, they are open from noon until 9. And then on Sunday, which is the last day you can go, they're open noon till 5. But of course, you want to do this. Grab your kids, grab your skates, head to the harbor because the Inner Harbor Ice Rink is open for business. Today, they're open noon till 11 p.m. Sunday, the hours are earlier, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The ice rink's last day will be January 15th, so there's still some time to check it out if you haven't been able to stop by before Christmas. No matter what you're doing to get going in that holiday spirit, we want to join in on that fun. So go ahead, share your pictures, share your videos with us. All you have to do is scan them, scan that QR code. You might see them here on air. And it's all powered by Stackla. The end of the year is just around the corner. After the break, we're remembering the items from fast food chains that you won't see into the next year. Topping your consumer news, Tesla's recalling over 100,000 Model S and Model X cars. The recalled vehicles do not comply with federal safety standards for side impact protection. The doors can actually unlock in the event of a crash. Tesla's already facing a recall of 2 million cars over what federal regulators say are inadequate safeguards in its autopilot system. 2023 marked the end of the road for several fast food menu items and some drinks. Some chains put an end to long-running items like McDonald's McCafe items. No, Wendy's also axed their grilled chicken sandwich and replaced it with a grilled chicken ranch wrap. Some beverages did not last in 2023. That includes Coca-Cola's seltzer water, AHA, and Pepsi's Sierra Mist, which was replaced by Starry. Okay. Speaking of McDonald's, parents, listen up. Starting December 26th, for a limited time, McDonald's will be rolling out Squishmallows in Happy Meals across the country. You'll be able to collect 12 of the iconic miniature plush toy characters, including Grimace. Each Squishmallow will come with a QR code that links to a unique playlist, which is the first of its kind for a Happy Meal toy. All right, let's get over to America's Steals and Deals.
The following segment is sponsored by Naki.
Haven't we all been in that situation where as soon as you get in your car, that tire pressure light goes on, then it starts blinking, then you have to go to the nearest gas station, and you just hope that someone's there to help you fill your tires with air? Well, thanks to the folks at Never Go Flat, you don't have to worry about that anymore. This is your emergency 3-in-1 peace of mind kit, knowing that you never, ever will be stranded and you're always going to be prepared. That's what I love so much about this. So you can actually inflate your tire on your car, your truck, your bike. If you have pool equipment, if you have sports equipment, it's awesome. Even an air mattress. This does the job, which is so great. It also has an emergency floodlight, flashlight, blinking light. On the back here, it actually has a USB port. So it's just great that you are always ready no matter what happens. I was very insecure when it came to this kind of stuff, but now I don't have to be. So if you're ever stranded on the side of the road, this is your assurance for you that, again, you are good to go. Every year, there are 33,000 tire-related accidents. So this is your peace of mind. You give it to all your family members that you love, making sure that they are always prepared. And that's what the folks at Never Go Flat really want to see happen. So right now we're offering 31% off on Never Go Flat. Head to asadeals.com for this exclusive offer.
As a homeowner, you know,
you work hard to have the things that you have.
A group of young people break into a home in Madison Park. The brazen crime caught on camera. And new charging documents reveal information about the woman arrested for bringing a gun to Kip Harmony Academy. Her explanation to police about why that gun was in her purse.
I'm White Everett. We get a few clouds across the area, plenty of rain off to the north and west, and a mild setup for your Christmas day. We've got all those details coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you, and thanks for being with us. It's 9 a.m. now. You're looking live over Towson. It's December 23rd. I'm Taylor Stewart, and it's time to start with your forecast. Meteorologist White Everhart, this is one of the busiest days for this travel season that we'll see. So the good news here is I'm seeing nothing too green or scary above the Baltimore area, but we're looking at something else, though.
Right, we're quiet here locally, so not a problem on the roads or like short hop flights up to New York or south into Virginia Beach, no problem. If you're going west, we do have action in the radar on Cleveland, into Detroit, and we've got some fog concerns out toward Milwaukee and Chicago, so connections through the country's north section may be having some delays with some of that weather. Otherwise, pretty quiet. 36 now in Laurel, 40 in Baltimore, 37 in Denton, and 36 in Salisbury, home of the Fighting Seagulls, where I went to undergrad. By the way, we'll see the temperatures today slowly rising from the 40s to around 50 degrees later on today. Mostly cloudy, though, most of the day. Milder for Christmas and a big weather maker right after Christmas. All those details coming up.
We're coming on air with some breaking news here. Police are investigating after a mass shooting in Baltimore County leaves 4 people shot, 1 person dead. This happened around 4 a.m. this morning on Woodland Drive across the street from Woodland High School. Once officers arrived, they found 5 people suffering from gunshot wounds. At least 1 person was pronounced dead there at the scene. All of the other victims have been taken to hospitals. If you know anything about this incident and you wish to stay anonymous, you can give Metro Crime Stoppers a call. That number on the bottom of your screen, 1-866-7-LOCK-UP. Continuing coverage this morning in a city in crisis, Mayor Scott is touting a drop in homicides under his leadership. The city is set to fall below 300 for the first time in 9 years. But mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon is criticizing the mayor's crime plan. It's led to a stern response from Mayor Scott.
I have to deal with the city on a regular basis with my clients, and I can see the dysfunction, not in one agency, but practically in every agency. And that is reflected of the leadership, you know, and it's reflected in who you hire, the people that work for you. I've never seen city government so dysfunctional as it is now.
Leadership that's failing the city is almost a laughable comment when my leadership has the city on pace to be under 300 homicides for the first time in 9 years. Investing in our education, opening rec centers, not closing them like the person he's endorsing did when she was mayor.
Many attribute the drop in homicides to the partnership between City State's Attorney Ivan Bates and U.S. Attorney Eric Barron. Both of them promised a tougher on crime approach in the city. Homicides are down 20%. Non-fatal shootings are down 9% since the start of that partnership. While shootings are down across the city, residents are still frustrated with the issues surrounding carjackings, burglaries, and many of those cases that have seemed to involve juveniles. This recent home break-in caught on camera in Madison Park shows just that.
As a homeowner, you know, you work hard to have the things that you have, and for somebody to come in and to invade your space, yes, that's just ridiculous.
Fox 45's Vincent Hill shares the troubling video amid community outrage about the uptick in crime.
Look at this group of juveniles who appear to be hanging out. Seconds later, another camera captures what they do next. The young burglars then make themselves at home, even going through the fridge while the homeowner's dog is feet away.
This is just crazy. go in the fridge like they at their own house.
Fox 45 showed the video to Pastor David Grissom, whose church is in the neighborhood.
Our young people need much guidance. They need a lot of prayer. They need an old-fashioned whipping.
Grissom says things could have gone really bad really fast.
If the homeowner was there, if the homeowner would have shot one of them, then the parent would have been on TV.
According to the homeowner, the juveniles were arrested, but because of their age, released just a few hours later.
Baby booking is not always the answer for some of these kids, because some of them are just outrageous.
Brazen crimes committed by juveniles, a heated topic at this week's Your Voice, Your Future town hall, hosted by Fox 45.
A hospitality worker was held up outside of my front window at gunpoint at 3 in the afternoon. Later on that night, 3 teenagers came back looking for the evidence they discarded, running away from police.
And the fear of no consequences brought up in Monday's town hall on juvenile crime, with DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi front and center.
I also know kids that are laughing at the cops when they arrest them, and I know the cops that are frustrated by rearresting the same juveniles.
Grissom, like many others, looking to Annapolis for change to the ever-growing juvenile crime crisis.
It is my prayer that laws be on the books that will really do something about this crime. It is outrageous. It is outrageous. And something really needs to be done. I want to see the governor get behind the state's attorney.
This morning, we're learning new information about the instructional assistant who allegedly brought a loaded handgun to Kip Harmony Academy yesterday. Charging documents say Tracy Minor revealed a custodian found a gun inside her purse. According to police, Minor said she was just rushing to get to work. She had no intention of bringing the bag to school. Minor says she uses that gun for protection, telling police she drives for Uber after work. Baltimore City Schools say Minor is not considered a district employee.
As a parent, as a grandparent, I'm sure that people, who have kids at Baltimore City Schools have a lot of questions.
Now, that reaction from a law enforcement expert after 5 guns were recovered from Baltimore City Schools in the last 2 days. Fox 45's Amy Simpson has more on the alarming number of guns confiscated from inside the school building.
In September, an 8th grade student arrested after a gun was found at Cherry Hill Elementary Middle School. Later that month, a 15-year-old Dunbar High School student accidentally shot himself in the leg while on school property.
That's just messed up. Like, why you gotta get a gun? Like, why can't you just tell your parents about it?
In October, a 7th grade student was taken into custody after bringing a loaded handgun to Joseph Briscoe Academy. By late November, a gun was found inside a student's backpack at Creative City Charter School. Sources told Fox 45 News that student was just 7 years old. And finally this week, a 15-year-old Dunbar High School student arrested Wednesday. Sources said 3 loaded guns were tied to the teen, and 2 incidents Thursday. An instructional assistant charged for bringing a loaded gun to Kip Harmony Academy in the morning. And by later that afternoon, a gun found at Frederick Douglass High School.
I mean, that's unacceptable.
This week's incidents totaling 5 guns recovered from inside city schools in just 2 days.
They come in through our scanners, and we even had the wands to wand them too. So how they got them in there, I really don't know. I really don't know how it got in there, because we do a thorough job of making sure that we screen everybody to come into the school.
It definitely makes me say that perhaps I need to move my child out of the school.
A national law enforcement expert on the prevalence of kids and teens with weapons.
When we talk about juvenile crime, the problem is people who are under the age of 18 know that they are not going to face much, if any, punishment if they commit a felony like bringing a gun to school.
We questioned Baltimore City Schools, in part, asking how guns are evading metal detectors at city high schools. The district not directly answering that question, but saying it relies on screenings at controlled entry points metal detectors at high schools, city schools police, and reports of inappropriate activity to keep guns from getting on campus. City schools did indicate it was a student or staff member who alerted to the weapons found at both Kip Harmony and Douglas High School this week.
Crucial transportation is back up and running in Baltimore City. What the MTA is offering for the inconvenience. That's just ahead.
Mostly cloudy most of the day today, but staying, I think, generally dry. Stray shower this evening. We'll talk about the setup for Christmas and when we might see some heavier rain in the area.
Happening today, the Maryland Transportation Authority says light rail service resumes. Services were temporarily suspended back on December 8th. At the time, MTA officials explained that a fire earlier in the year prompted the need to inspect all 53 light rail cars. With service resuming today, the shuttle bus will no longer run. As a courtesy to riders, though, light rail service will be free until January 2nd. And why pay full price for Christmas gifts when you could pay half and get something just as nice? It's just common sense. How you can give and get that unique gift at an unbeatable price coming up after the break. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News Weekend Edition, all local, all morning. Well, can you imagine buying someone a used gift for the holidays? Maybe not you, but I could. But in 2023, it's actually no longer considered a faux pas. Joining us this morning to tell us more about Thriftmas, Lisa Rusniak, the president and CEO of Goodwill Industries of the Chesapeake Incorporated. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So you guys have seen an upward trend of people shopping at Goodwill, especially during the holiday season. This is that time to start buying a gift. What does that say?
We are. You know, inflation has been a huge impact on people's wallets this year, particularly. And I think one of the things that's changed is that it's trendy now. It's cool to go to a Goodwill store and, you know, hunt for the great good finds that you can get there. And so it's not, you know, forbidden anymore, I guess, to go buy gifts at Goodwill. And we have stuff that's brand new, still on the hanger, still with tags. You can get a lot of great deals there.
You know, my brother and I are artsy kids. We would go to Goodwill. We'd find something, maybe cut it up and make some shorts, or, I mean, there's just so many fun little options, but there's also some stuff that's never been touched before as well. What could you find as a gift if you're just browsing the store?
So yesterday I was in Perry Hall. We had a brand new holiday sweater, red, tags on it, $6. You know, it'd sell for $25, $30 in the store. We had a Vera Bradley bag.
You're talking to the wrong person. I walk through the studio like, just got this dress for, you know, on sale. So, okay, great. So, okay, what are some other items in there that you said you found some Vera Bradley, but folks who are just saying, hey, I want to get something that's nice, but doesn't feel worn, doesn't feel used. What are some things they can look for?
Wow. Well, if you are a Ravens fan or Orioles fan, we have everything Ravens in our store and Orioles. You can find lots of racks and racks of T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies. But you know, one of the great things about shopping at Goodwill is you're repurposing something that's only been gently used. And so we're keeping a lot of stuff out of the landfills. Last year, we collected over 68 million pounds of donations, which we kept out of the landfill because we, you know, sell it in our stores. If it doesn't sell in the store, we sell it for salvage. And so we keep, you know, moving it through, and so it gets repurposed.
So you can really feel good about your purchase because it's not like you're contributing to the overhaul of excess we all have because, you know, just because someone else has maybe used it before doesn't mean it still doesn't have great value.
No, absolutely. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize that the proceeds from what they buy in our stores fund our mission, which is to help people get out of poverty, get jobs and training, and family-sustaining wage jobs. That's our most important part of what we do every day.
Well, I'm not done shopping. I'm going to come see you guys. Linda Rusniak, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. All right. Thank you.
All right, let's get over to meteorologist Wyatt Everhart for a look at our forecast.
Always good to get those end-of-year donations in, too. Hey, we've got good weather today. Overall here in Maryland. Not so much points north and west of us, so travelers flying, connecting through places like Cleveland, Detroit, little rain there, probably not a big deal. Toward Milwaukee, Chicago, some fog socking in the area. That may be a somewhat bigger deal. That goes all the way out toward Des Moines, Iowa, so in Minneapolis. So, you know, low visibility, that can sometimes impact connecting flights through those areas. 40 right now in Baltimore. Brightening up a little bit, but still mainly a cloudy sky. I think we're going to see a slow warm up under those clouds today, but not a particularly frigid start by late December standards anyway. We're already above freezing at least. So on our way to 50 or so later today under the clouds, but still I think a mostly dry scenario. A stray shower possible later today. Otherwise, we're going to be quiet and even milder as we go from Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. Next weather maker set to arrive toward the middle part of the week, right after Christmas, actually, so that's not bad timing. Overall, again, you see that area of widespread rain from Columbus, Ohio, up into southern Canada. It's up into southern Canada where there is some actual winter weather. There's really none in the U.S. right now, even northern New England, it's dry, but a little bit of wintry mix there toward points just west of Montreal, and some points there in southern Canada will get some winter weather today. No snow on the ground anywhere around the Mid-Atlantic or the central East Coast. Not going to be a white Christmas this year. We can say that with confidence. However, as we look at the overall setup here, maybe just kind of clouds breaking for some sun, so maybe a brighter setup for Christmas Day. How's that? If you can't have a white Christmas, have a bright Christmas, right? Not bad. Big mild bubble of air over the midsection of the country. We'll get that edging in for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, so that's going to push us milder, mid-50s, above average, normally mid-40s this time of year. So not an overall bad setup here. Beyond Christmas Day, you see the rain showers coming in. Our next weather maker going to be a bit of a soaker around here. It looks like on Wednesday, so travels during these days could be a little trickier. After that, we dry it out late week and get a little colder as we head toward New Year's weekend next weekend. Back to you.
We're getting a look at the final inflation report in 2023. I'm Atrell Nashar with what it says about prices heading into the new year.
Topping your consumer news, the National Highway Safety Transportation Administration says Tesla is recalling more than 120,000 Model S and Model X cars. The agency says the recalled vehicles do not comply with federal safety standards for side impact protection, as the doors can unlock in the event of a crash. Tesla's already facing a recall of 2 million cars over what federal regulators say are inadequate safeguards in its autopilot system. Except for those of you that are giving people Teslas this year, gift givers don't appear to be risk takers, as a lot of dependables are favorites to give, according to the National Retail Federation. The group surveyed 8,000 people on Christmas gift choices. The top categories coming in as clothes, gift cards, toys, books, video games, and candy. 2023 marked the end of the road for several fast food items and drinks. Some chains put an end to long-running menu items like McDonald's McCafe items. Wendy's also axed their grilled chicken sandwich and replaced it with a grilled chicken wrap. Some beverages that did not last into 2024 include Coca-Cola's seltzer water AHA, Pepsi's Sierra Mist, which was replaced by Starry. Speaking of McDonald's, parents, listen up here. Starting on December 26th, for a limited time, McDonald's will be rolling out Squishmallows in Happy Meals. You'll be able to collect 12 of the iconic miniature plush toy characters. That includes Grimace. Each Squishmallow will come with a QR code that links a unique playlist to a one-of-its-kind for a Happy Meal toy. 2023 has been a year of high prices and high interest rates, but a recession was avoided. National correspondent Alan Shar has a look at the final inflation data of the year and what it means for your 2024 budget.
When it comes to inflation, 2023 is ending on a low note, and that's a good thing. According to a gauge the Federal Reserve watches closest, the year started out with a 5.3% year-over-year inflation rate. 2023 is ending with that figure down to 2.6% based on data released Friday by the Commerce Department.
Thinking back to a year ago, that consensus was we couldn't get to where we are today on inflation without a spike in unemployment and a recession, but the unemployment rate's been below 4% for 22 months running now.
When volatile food and energy prices are taken out of the equation, the inflation rate is slightly higher, 3.2%. The Fed wants to see that at 2%, meaning their high interest rates could stick around for a while. Looking at inflation month to month, costs actually went down. That hasn't happened since spring of 2020. But when it comes to consumer sentiment, there's still a ways to go before people feel good again.
People are a little bit more careful about what they're spending their money on these days.
The latest poll from The Economist and YouGov finds only 30% of adults rate the economy as good or excellent. 26% said fair and 42% said poor. Though polls like this show people feel uneasy about current conditions, they're not necessarily behaving like it. You've heard of doom scrolling. How about doom spending? 27% of Americans say they spend money to cope with stress, despite their concerns about the economy or their own personal debt. It's adding to the overall robust consumer spending that's beaten expectations this year, pleasantly surprising business owners like at this shoe store in Wisconsin on Black Friday.
People talking about the economy not being as strong, but we were really blown away that our business gained so much.
As for what's in store for 2024, the Fed forecasts the rate of inflation will keep declining, meaning prices will still rise, but it gives Americans a better chance at keeping up. In Washington, I'm Atrell Nashar reporting.
A possible shakeup in Baltimore's mayoral race as Thiru Vignarajah considers a run. This morning, why one expert says it could be bad news for another candidate. And just 2 sleeps away until Christmas morning, meteorologist Wyatt Everhart is tracking what the weather will be like when Santa's sleigh flies across Maryland. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News Weekend Edition, all local, all morning.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you, Charm City. Looking live over the Inner Harbor this morning with that sun up on the eve of Christmas Eve. Okay, it's December 23rd. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's start with your forecast. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart with what travelers can expect this morning. Good morning, Wyatt.
Hey, Taylor. Yeah, look, nothing locally, really. I mean, the radar is picking up a few shallow returns, nothing hitting the ground. But as you go way off to the north and west toward Detroit, toward points around Windsor, Canada, and back south into Pittsburgh, there is rain coming down there. So if your travels take you well north and west, that's where you'll find some impact. Also, fog and mist out there this morning toward Milwaukee, Chicago, and Minneapolis. So those are our main travel trouble spots. Other than that, we're looking pretty good. Statewide, the numbers running cool but not frigid by late December standards. 42 at the beach in Ocean City, 39 Chestertown, 40 Baltimore, 33 Hagerstown. Brightening up a little bit out there, but the clouds, I think, will hold tough most of the day. It's kind of a mix of sun and clouds where the sun tries to punch through at times. On our way to about 50 or so late this afternoon. Not a bad last-minute shopping day, right? Well, I guess tomorrow is technically the last-minute shopping day. We'll talk more about that forecast into Christmas and beyond. It's coming up.
All right, we're back with some breaking news here. Police are investigating a mass shooting in Baltimore County that left 4 people shot, 1 person dead. This happened around 4 a.m. this morning on Woodland Drive across the street from Woodland High School. Officers arrived there. They found 5 people suffering from gunshot wounds. At least one of them was pronounced dead at the scene. Everyone else has been transported to the hospital. If you know anything about this and want to stay anonymous, you can give Metro Crime Stoppers a call. That number is 1-866-7-LOCK-UP. In your election 2024 coverage, crime is expected to be a primary focus in this year's mayoral race next year, but it looks like we're already here. We've been hearing from frustrated residents who say something has to change inside City Hall in order for the city to become safer.
Is what are you going to do tomorrow, not a year and a half from now, not January of 2025 after election outcomes, but what will you do today working with the current mayor, working with the leadership of the Baltimore Police Department to ensure that acts of violence are not occurring to residents on a daily basis now?
Well, there could be a shakeup in the mayor's race. Former federal and state prosecutor Dhruv Vignarajah says he's forming an exploratory committee to weigh a mayoral bid. Keith Daniels looks at how this could reshape the race.
Dhruv Vignarajah back on the campaign trail to Baltimore City Hall's top job once again. Maybe. Vignarajah announcing Friday that he is forming a campaign exploratory committee. Dr. Richard Vatz.
Exploratory committees are usually symbolic.
A political rhetoric professor at Towson University on the would-be candidate's calculated move.
It tells that he's going to run. I mean, there are always exceptions, but I can't think of any major candidates who have ever set up an exploratory committee who have not found an immediate ratification from that committee for their running.
Vignarajah released a statement on the matter that reads in part, "Folks have never been more frustrated with, quote, ineptitude and corruption in city government." That statement, part of his motivation to once again consider running for mayor.
Once for mayor, twice for state's attorney.
Political scientist John Deedy.
Biggest problem he could have is you don't want to lose this race and then after this race become known as the perennial candidate. That's the worst thing you could be called. And people thinking of you as he's running again, it's never a good look.
Vignarajah, a Democrat, ran unsuccessfully twice for Baltimore City State's Attorney, the last time in 2022, and for mayor in 2020. Current Mayor Brandon Scott won the 2020 mayoral primary with nearly 30% of the vote, squeezing by current mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon. Vignarajah finished 4th with just over 11% of the vote. And now, some political observers believe, should Vignarajah choose to run again, he could, once again, shake things up, possibly splitting the vote when one candidate takes more votes from one candidate than another.
This time around, a lot of people feel that the vote splitting is with Sheila Dixon because they would be similar on issues related to crime and things like that.
It is. It's a real possibility. And in the worst situation for Sheila Dixon and for him, this could redound to the mayor's advantage. But I think it's a risk worth taking.
Vigneroja has remained prominent in Baltimore as he's run for mayor, as we heard, and city state attorney twice. He represented the family of Timothy Reynolds, the man who was killed at the Inner Harbor just last summer. A 16-year-old was convicted of voluntary manslaughter in that case. Vigneroja most recently filed suits on behalf of residents who claim BGE was installing external regulators without their permission, and they said it was unsafe. The city ultimately sided with residents and banned the installation without homeowner approval.
City residents scored a major victory with CHAP unanimously deciding to block the installation of exterior regulators in historic districts across Baltimore.
Mayor Scott and former Mayor Sheila Dixon are the presumed frontrunners in the Democratic primary. But recent polling shows a sizable chunk of support for a third mayoral candidate. In a Goucher poll released in October, 23% of people saying they'd prefer a third candidate, while 39% backed Sheila Dixon, 27% backed Mayor Scott.
They just take our trash cans, put them in the trash truck, and dispose of them. They crushed them. You know, what are we supposed to do now as a community to help keep our neighborhood clean? And when it's clean, it's also safe.
It was a case of the missing trash cans in Mayoral community, but later discovered that those cans were not just taken. The surveillance video showed the garbage truck was collecting them, just not the trash. The bin's disappearance came after dozens of 311 complaints requesting that the overflow be emptied more often. Instead, the Department of Public Works responded by clearing the curb. They crushed the cans. Residents say the whole situation was confusing.
Maybe somebody said, oh, you know, we'll fix them. We'll go ahead and pick them up and get rid of them. It's just like, come on, it's a community trash can. You all live in the city as well. I just don't get it.
In a statement to FOX45, a DPW spokesperson writes in part, quote, the unauthorized removal and destruction of these trash cans is prohibited. It goes against our commitment to providing quality services to the community. DPW also tells us new cans have been provided and will arrive in the next 2 weeks. Developing now, the Baltimore City State Attorney's Office is going to retry Joseph Black. This goes back to 4 charges surrounding a 2022 traffic stop in which Black allegedly hit an officer with his car and dragged him. In court on Thursday, Black was found not guilty of first and second degree attempted murder. A judge declared a mistrial on 4 other charges that include assault and illegal gun possession. State Attorney Ivan Bates says he respects the partial verdict handed down, but he's committed to doing everything in his power to find justice for Sergeant Kenneth Ramberg. That's the officer who was injured in this incident. The power of sports on full display in Towson. One superfan's compelling bond with her favorite team. That's coming up in Maryland's Moment.
Tracking some active weather to the north and west of Maryland, but so far quiet around Baltimore. Will that hold throughout Christmas? We'll answer that, talk about the next storm system coming up.
Coming up this week on Full Measure, few controversies are as heated as the one involving government censorship of our information. Now, a lawsuit filed against the Biden administration appears to be reining in the unconstitutional activities. We'll hear from a key figure in the landmark lawsuit and examine some of its startling documents that's been unearthed. Schools and families across the country are grappling with critical shortages and qualified teachers. Scott Thuman takes us to one place where they're putting a little creativity to the test. And from Bud Light to Target, corporations are going woke in high-profile and controversial ways. We'll speak with the Dr. Frankenstein, who helped create the woke corporate monster. Wait until you hear how his outlook has changed. All this week on Full Measure.
All right, with all that holiday hustle and bustle, it's time to take some time out to enjoy Christmas in Baltimore this weekend. Don't worry, there are plenty of things you can do leading up to the Christmas Day holiday and in the days after. Starting off strong, of course, go visit that Magic Miracle on 34th Street. Even though Christmas is on Monday, you have plenty of time to see the lights since they'll be up until New Year's Day. If you check them out today, you can do so between 5 p.m. and midnight. Tomorrow for Christmas Eve, they're closing things down a bit early, so you can see those lights from 5 to 11. Up next, we're heading down to the Christmas Village. It is the perfect place to get those last-minute gifts locally. Today, they're open from noon until 9 p.m. And then Sunday, which is the last day you can go, they're open from noon till 5. But of course, grab those skates and head to the harbor because the Inner Harbor Ice Rink is back open. Today, they're open from noon until 11. Sunday, they close a little earlier, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sunday. The ice rink's last day is January 15th, so there's still some time to check it out if you can't do so before Christmas. No matter what you're doing, though, we want to know, we want to see it. Share your pictures and your videos with us through your Chime In feature on FOX45.com. You might see them on air. All you have to do is scan the QR code. It'll take you right to our website where you can upload your pictures and videos. It's all powered by Stackla. Well, it's probably going to be a busy day for those last-minute shoppers. Will the weather put a damper on those plans? Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart will let you know in his full Weather Authority forecast. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. The power of sports, well, it can be a beautiful thing. Coaches, players, teams, all making an impact on their community. But what about the other way around? In a look back at some of our favorite Maryland moments this year, here's Morgan Adsit and photojournalist Lane Blank with how a Towson superfan is inspiring the athletes on her favorite team.
3 minutes on you.
One thing is clear with this basketball program.
I appreciate you, dog.
Everyone plays an important role.
Next one, Mariah's favorite, Inchworm to Cobra.
Feeling that connection makes everyone feel invested.
Here we go.
Coaches, players, managers, athletic trainers, you name it.
Ready and go.
And it takes them all to build this team.
I see you, Gabby.
That's how Laura Harper leads the Tigers in her first season at Towson.
Last one. And I think it just buys into the overall championship energy.
No teammate is more important than another.
Ellie!
Well, maybe one.
The first time Ellie came into the gym, She walked in like she owned the place.
She makes me really happy when I do get to see her.
Whether it's practice or game day, her presence fuels her team.
She's just always been like our sunshine during practice. In games, we always hear her. She's always cheering for us.
Nothing does that more than these high fives.
Can I get a double?
But it's great. It just fills you up with joy.
Meet Towson women's basketball superfan, Ellie.
She talks about, the team, the coaches, not just something that she's here and then it's over, on to the next thing. They really have impacted her life.
Ellie does this all from the sideline, unable to play the game she loves.
Even though she can't run as fast as they can or jump up and, score the basket like they can, she, I think, feels it through her body.
The 25-year-old Baltimore County native.
You got the ball. Good job, Ellie.
Is multi-disabled, nonverbal. Ellie signs and uses an iPad to communicate. None of this predicted to be her life until after birth.
The doctor that delivered Ellie and performed the C-section, she immediately thought that there was a concern.
Once home post-delivery, it didn't take long for Ellie's mother, Karen Smith, to realize that doctor was right.
She wasn't looking at me. We weren't making eye contact. The connection wasn't forming.
Ellie also didn't hit the same milestones her older sister Carly did. Ellie's parents knew then they needed help, answers, and a plan.
I kind of knew in my heart of hearts, and so did my husband, that this was going to be a lifelong situation.
After years of support and care for Ellie, the Smith family leaned into one of Ellie's passions, sports, and her favorite, basketball.
She loves sports and to participate, but she prefers to observe them.
Ellie's love for the game started from watching on TV to joining her uncle's AAU team, which led her to Towson.
I think it was the first or second game that she came to, because she sits behind the bench with a sign typically. I would come out of timeouts, high five Ellie, see her cheering for us, and I'm like, Ellie, this is what I need, this energy.
A relationship that extends far beyond wins and losses on the court.
She was probably 6 or 7 before she really started smiling. And now that's like the greatest joy. Is like as soon as you walk in and you see Ellie smile, she just, she lights up a room.
It's transformed into something players and coaches get far more out of than Ellie.
Anytime she's in the crowd, we like, nah, now we got to really whoop the other team, because we got to make Ellie proud.
She's their inspiration, a constant reminder to have perspective.
There's a level of appreciation and gratitude of life, and just realizing how much joy she's able to have.
She's also bailed out her team a time or two.
Oh my goodness, one time we were in film and I was ripping the team. Like, they were just getting on my last nerves. And I guess Ellie was outside, like literally, and I hear her laughing. And I'm just like, y'all are so lucky Ellie's coming in right now, because I can't be mad anymore.
While no official diagnosis, Ellie is one of 5 people in the world with her genetic makeup.
So they don't know enough to know whether this is actually what caused her disability.
An incredibly difficult life journey for Ellie and her family that comes with challenges. Ellie and her family refuse to let her disabilities dictate life.
And my mom passed away while I was pregnant with Ellie. So I didn't have that support there. So I didn't have a mother to help teach me what it was like to be a mother. So I will say to all of you young moms out there, continue to have faith. Don't ever let anyone put a ceiling on anything. We were given so many ceilings that were so low. She's living proof that she's able to just do so much. I'm so proud of her. Am I proud of you?
Proud of what Ellie's life is today and what it will be tomorrow.
We want her to be as independent as she possibly can and have a community around her, have a community that she loves and that loves her.
Part of that community is with her Towson basketball family.
Bingo, bingo! And if we can play as free as Ellie lives her life, you just feel like we can do anything.
The Tigers' year ended in March as conference champions and in the first round of the WNIT. So now they wait.
Oh yeah, this is Ellie's gym.
For next season.
She knows her chair's gonna be over here.
In Towson.
Together!
I'm Morgan Adsit.
What a touching story, especially this time of year. Let's get over to meteorologist Wyatt Everhart for a look at our forecast.
Yeah, love that story, and love to see that we're rain-free this morning, locally at least. Now, that is not the case everywhere, okay? Travelers flying, going to connect through Cleveland, you're going to face some rain. You're going out towards Chicagoland, Milwaukee, you're going to find some dense fog early in the day today, even out toward Minneapolis. So travelers in that direction, maybe a few delays with that. Otherwise, just, mostly cloudy here, around 40. We'll warm up today. Not tremendously, but we're already not so frigid by late December standards. So I think we'll edge our way up to around 50 degrees later today. Very little wind to speak of. And again, just a slow climb temperature-wise, but quiet. Dry, good travel weather, good last-minute shopping weather today, and yes, even tomorrow if you need it. A quiet, milder setup for Christmas itself. We'll be well into the mid-50s, I think, on Christmas Day. Next main weather maker on the heels of Christmas as we go from Tuesday into Thursday. Again, for now, the active weather remaining to our north and west. We do have a little bit of a chance of a hit or miss shower later today. Otherwise, relatively quiet as most of the action stays to our north. Winter weather-wise, you got to get into southern Canada to find enough cold air to support really any type of snow or white Christmas scenarios. So that's going to be, again, north of the U.S. boundary. A little snow north of Niagara Falls today, up toward Montreal even. Otherwise, partly cloudy around here from Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. A little brighter each afternoon, probably especially Christmas afternoon. That'd be good news for the kids. Maybe take some of those toys outside, get out of the house for a while, right, kids, in the afternoon. Mild to country's midsection, some of that milder air, again, trying to edge into our area for a couple of days here early in the week. But if we look at the overall trend here and we find basically the main active weather is going to be Tuesday, late day, especially into Wednesday. Could get a steady rain on Wednesday. Right now, no winter weather in sight, though it does turn colder toward Friday. We'll talk more about your New Year's weekend forecast with the 10-day setup. That's coming up after this break. All right, if you look carefully there, Taylor, trying to brighten up a little.
Yes.
That's not going to be like a blue sky day, but maybe a little brightness coming through.
I like that, especially because, it could be a good day to get outside, maybe do some marshmallows by the fire. I don't know, I'm just idealizing Christmas in my head, I guess.
Well, and all those well-prepared people with all their gifts already shopped for and wrapped. I mean, how nice would that be? I'm not in that status, but maybe some of you are. Hey, I want to talk about beyond Christmas, you know, good weather through Christmas, rain definitely midweek, okay?
Okay.
And looking toward the New Year's weekend holiday, right now it looks a little colder, but relatively quiet as well. So maybe we get another good travel weekend in there, and fingers crossed. We'll see if that changes at all.
I know a lot of airlines are definitely crossing their fingers for that. They haven't had to cancel as many flights as last year by any stretch. So hopefully we keep that going.
How about 2024 within 10 days of now? Whoa.
I don't have a response, Wyatt. I don't have a response. All right, well, thanks for joining us here at Fox 45 Morning News. We will be back tomorrow and this evening. Make today meaningful.
Well, I feel like coming down here gets